This is Rebecca Lowe, or Rebecca Lua, if you listen to Suboptimal Radio, and you are listening to Men in Blazers on the NBC Sports Network.
It's unbelievable!
From the Embassy Row studios, in the crap part of Soho, it's the Men in Blazers podcast, Rog. Or should I say, former Ukrainian Prime Minister, Roger Bennett.
Arseniy Yatsenyuk. He's a lot better looking than me. He's a lot younger than me, and he's got a better future lying ahead of him.
He looks exactly like you, Rog.
He does. There's about 1 million people over Twitter. So the poor Belgian Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Also dead ringer. All us balls look the same, but I'm old enough to be both of their daddies. They're my twins.
Yeah.
My political twin sons, David.
Yeah.
Why are you talking to me about politics when you can talk to me about something else that you'd much rather talk to me about?
The golf, Rog. It was sensational. I mean, as good as the Premier League was this weekend, we'll get to it. There were certainly some very good games. But the real fairy tale, I think we posited on the Men in Blazers television programme yesterday that the Premier League writers had taken a week off and they'd gone and worked on the Masters, Rog.
Yep. I mean, the whole thing was far too much of a metaphor for this season's football, for it to be a coincidence. You know, like Animal Farm's not really about piggies and horses.
Yeah.
The Masters, it's not really a tradition unlike any other, David.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thinly veiled retelling of this season.
Yeah.
Jordan Spieth's quadruple bogey on the 12th.
Yeah.
Could only have been more Arsenal if Theo Walcott was his bloody caddy.
Yeah. That's so true. I mean, it was an amazing back nine to that tournament. It just shows you, when people say, is it over for Leicester? In sport, anything can happen.
Danny Willits.
Yeah.
The most Leicester City thing I've ever seen, at least since I smelt
Well,
Arlo White's Prada aftershave.
Yeah, it's very true. He is from Sheffield, like Jamie Vardy.
He's a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Like Seamus.
Yeah. Like John Green.
Seamus and John Green are very similar characters, by the way.
The love child of Seamus and John Green is Danny Willett.
Can I just say about this whole thing, David?
Yeah.
I'm still confused and a little conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I felt about an Englishman dominating while an American fell apart. It actually, theologically, impacted me to my core. Andrew Litchie tweeted in, was that the most English performance by an American or the most American performance by an Englishman? Hashtag the Masters.
Yeah, I mean, golf blogs, and this isn't a golf podcast, so we're not going to talk about it too long. I think that's an interesting question.
Not a football podcast either.
Yeah, it's very true. It's a poetry podcast, mainly, and we talk a lot about the Ukrainian Prime Minister. But it's it is sort of fascinating to sort of rank this collapse. There have been some epic collapses in golf tournaments. Greg Norman at the same Masters, I think that was 1996. The epic collapse, Jean van der Velde on the 18th at Carnoustie. And
France has never recovered.
Yeah, we've seen some epic collapses. But there was something remarkable about this, because Jordan Spieth is such a killer. Yeah, he had a problem at the Masters, a couple of years ago when he was leading. But this is such a winner. He's such a stone-cold killer. That's why it was so unexpected to see it. This isn't a guy who is never going to come back and win another major championship. He is not a choker by any means. It just shows that it can happen to anybody at any time. And there was something almost life-affirming for me about seeing that. And not because an English person won, but I love Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth is great for the game of golf. But just the fact that it could happen to him, I think, made a difference. One thing I laughed about, though, was how Danny Willett, the Americanization of Danny Willett, immediately on American television. Suddenly, he's the son of a pastor. I've never met an American who's the son of a pastor. Son of a vicar versus son of a pastor. They feel like two very different things. And then immediately the story of his wife, and would have given birth today, but Zachariah came early. It was a miracle because they induced pregnancy very, very early for it. It just was the American. Danny Willett suddenly became American in the course of about 30 minutes.
I felt like they did an abbreviated Blazer presentation because they didn't know anything about him, and they were frankly a bit embarrassed by him being invited to join like this supposedly exclusive club.
People feel terrible for Jordan, though.
As well they should, Dave. I mean, that hairline.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's awful what he's doing, clinging on, pretending, lying to himself, lying to his friends, lying to his family,
he has to wear
lying
that
to
cap
his
all the
nation.
time. It's just exacerbating the problems in all of his sectors,
At
Rog.
DC3 tweets, gutted for Jordan Spieth. But is this proof, definitive proof, that karma wreaks havoc on ball deniers? Do we need to answer that question?
Is he a ball denier? I don't think he's a ball denier. He wears a cap a lot when he plays golf. He takes it off and it's pretty
Stop
clear
giving
he's
your
going to go
golfing
bald.
heroes a free pass, mate. That is honestly, that is Brian Urlacher level. Ball denying, Davo.
Yeah.
Talking about the Butler cabin, and we've talked about this before, but I've got to bring it up again.
It's the worst cabin in sports.
The more you stare at it,
Yeah.
the more the Butler cabin looks like the lobby of a Holiday Inn outside of Long Beach Airport.
Yeah.
And I've started to realise why. I used the 27-second presentation. I mean, the quickest. They did not like Willits in there. It was shaming the whole organisation. Hootie didn't put in calls, didn't like it. It's the carpeting.
I haven't noticed the carpeting in the Butler cabin.
Schlocky.
It is.
It's the kind of carpeting that's normally only laid down in the proximity of a lot of lucite and pleather products. But it's also, Davo, and you'll understand this better than me because you play your trade in this medium.
Yeah.
It's the high-definition television. HD is the great demystifier of fables. That's why I'm glad we got a panic room which is overtly crap. HD is so unforgiving. I was watching the Men in Blazers show with my wife last night. She looked up and she just turned around and goes,
I'm sorry, Mrs. B.
She goes, you need to clean your glasses.
Can I say one more thing
Would you?
about the Masters? There was a remarkable moment that wasn't the biggest moment of the week, but to me, it was huge, partly because I have Zach Johnson on my fantasy golf team. And Zach Johnson would have made the cut, therefore would have played for the weekend, could have scored some points for my fantasy golf team. But he was disqualified after a fan or a gentleman, a woman, who knows, watching from home, called in a penalty on him for touching water on his backswing, a tiny bit of water on his backswing on a hole. Can we discuss the personality profile of somebody who sits at home and watches sports and calls in penalties to the Masters Committee from people they're watching in slow motion in order to get them assessed penalties?
I had to do it. I had to bring him down.
Why Zach Johnson? Such a lovely guy.
Another victim of HD television.
Rog.
I saw the water.
Oh, Rog.
I saw the phone.
I know.
I
You
made
knew
the
the
call.
rule. You knew the rule. You made the call.
You do the time.
It's that kind of person. Now we know, Rog.
Anyway, Dave, I got one more profound question.
Yeah, go.
What is sport all about at its core, though, if it's not about Blazers?
Like the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat.
None of that.
Oh, no, Blazers.
It's a clumsy segue
Yeah.
into saying, last week, night of the Golden Blazer.
Night of the Gold Blazer. You do actually believe that football and sport is mainly about Blazers, though, Rog.
I do.
What a night. What a night,
What
Rog.
unfair.
Yeah, it was great.
Bob Lee,
Yeah.
the General, Lars Ulrich
Yeah, Lars Ulrich.
of Metallica,
Yeah.
a power bald who can
Yeah.
only be described by me anyway. You
Yeah.
describe him differently. I'd say proper Chelsea.
No, I like proper Chelsea. He is proper Chelsea. He goes back to the old school. We talked about Chopper Harris. We talked about Charlie Cook. We talked about Peter Osgood.
If you've ever seen the movie Some Kind of Monster,
Yeah.
and it's not about football, but
Yeah.
you watch Lars'
about John
representation,
Terry.
and you just know this man is going to be proper Chelsea, and he does not let you down.
Yeah.
Ben Clark, the fantastic singer who closed BlazerCon
Yeah.
with the US Dos Acero themed yesterday's game, wrote a Leicester City anthem
Yeah.
to trump all Leicester City anthems, Chat Get Banged,
Yeah.
which we will release, I believe, this week with the rest of the show.
Good.
As a special pod. Paul Carr, Arlo White,
Arlo.
who stayed out in the bar until closing time. Just
Yeah.
when I last saw him, he was surrounded.
Drinking.
He was surrounded by thousands of adoring Premier League
Well,
fans.
GFOPs. Our GFOPs. They're also GFOAs.
And above all, Davo,
Yeah.
Loretta Lynch.
Oh,
I still can't believe it all happened.
I know. Rog, number one, again, muzzle tough to you. What an amazing interview. What an amazing coup. When you said, you know who we're going to give the Golden Blazer to this year? Loretta Lynch. And I gave you that encouraging, oh, what a great idea, Rog. As you well know now, because I've told you on stage at the Highline Ballroom, I thought you were even more insane than I actually do think you are. I thought there was no way she would agree. The fact that she agreed, and not only agreed, but with such grace, welcomed you to the Justice Department,
You tried to talk me out of it.
indulged.
You tried to send me to Chelsea's Janet Reno. You said, lower your sights. We can get Janet Reno.
I know. GFOP, she loves the pod.
I've got to say, when you tape these things,
Yeah.
there's like 50 people in the room in front of you. I mean, the room itself is an astonishingly beautiful space. Think about the butler cabin.
It's nicer than the butler
And then
cabin.
think about the exact opposite. I mean, her conference room, JW was there with me. He'll agree. It was a wash in like maple and mahogany. There's a beautiful oil painting of RFK.
Yeah.
Secret Service are everywhere.
A lot of plea bargaining
Not a lot
goes
of
on in there.
GFOPs in the Secret Service.
Really?
I've got to
That's
tell you.
interesting.
I kept nodding and saying hello. They never said a word back
Yeah,
to me.
none of them wanted a picture.
You wait for her to come in. Cameras are like whirling. And then a private door slides open, and a massive man fills a doorway, and he just goes, "Are you ready?" And you know, before any interview, you always feel a sudden pang of nerves and adrenaline. And behind this massive man, I looked at him, Loretta Lynch, the 83rd Attorney General, who is about 5 foot tall,
Yeah.
5'1"
You've
maybe.
never looked larger.
She just like leans over from behind this bodyguard. Her head comes out from around his waist, and all I can see is a little head. And she just grinned at me and did a quick wave. And I just knew everything was going to be okay, David.
Oh.
They say never meet your heroes because they always disappoint you. But she is such a fantastic human being. Exactly how you'd imagine someone with her life experience, her life story. It was edifying. It was humbling to me. Yeah. And when I get my American citizenship, I want her to swear
It's a
me
lot
in,
of
David.
paperwork, though, Rog. A lot of paperwork.
Yeah, I'm not good
still
at the
to do. You're not
bureaucracy.
good at. Maybe I wonder if you can find somebody else to do
By
your
the way,
paperwork.
I think that's a mental block I have because I haven't got my kids' English passport yet either, which much my wife's chagrin. I want to thank Loretta. Thanks to her office, the
Yeah.
GFOPs there, Kelly Creighton, Kevin Tiernan.
Yeah.
Amazing characters.
Yeah.
Thanks to all the GFOPs who travelled from around the country to be with us at the Golden Blazer Award. It really is a special night, David.
Yeah.
Just wish we'd shot it for television.
Yeah, we should have done that. It was an error. You'd have seen me dancing to when Lars Ulrich. I don't know what moved me, Roger. Yeah, I've got one of my daughters,
describe
Ingrid.
it.
One of my daughters, Ingrid,
an
is
amazing moment.
she's a really talented dancer, and I always tell her, "You got your dance moves from your father.
Yep.
Never forget that. It's all from me." And she looks at me weird. But when Lars Ulrich walked out and we played Enter Sandman, Rog, the music spoke to me and through me. I don't know quite what I was doing. I had never, ever danced to that song before. I had never put together that collection of dance moves ever in my life. I hadn't even conceived of them. I just released myself to the music, Rog. I released myself to the vibes, Rog. And I threw some shapes. Some quite serious shapes. There was a lot of stomping up and down on the upbeat, and there was. It ended up with me prostrate, knees forward. I think there might have been an air guitar involved, and perhaps a tongue. Lars walked up on stage.
He gave the devil horns. He's
Yeah.
like, he's in it. It's me. I'm on stage. It's Lars. The crowd go mental.
Yeah.
And then I look out a corner of my eye and I see Davo doing a dance that I can only say is Ricky Gervais in The Office. If you've watched it, is that good. It's amazing.
I was moved. I was moved.
I was on stage and I stopped. I mean, honestly, I think he was shouting out, "I'm speaking in tongues, I'm speaking in tongues. Lord, I feel your power washes over me."
I was speaking parcel tongue.
Lars stopped too. We both just stood over you as
You feel like
you
Lars-
kind of ground against the floor, just
And
rising
at that point,
up.
what I thought is Lars has played all over the world. He's
Yeah.
seen people going insane to his music. And
Yeah.
yet Lars actually stopped and remarked upon it that it's something he never expected to see.
He took me aside after the show
Yeah.
and asked me if they could borrow you for their next world tour. They want you to dance.
I'll be like Bez.
They want you to dance naked in a
I'll be
cage
Bez.
on the world. It'd be fantastic. I told him, take him.
Yeah.
Take him. He's yours. And one more thing.
Yeah.
Hope for the Warriors. Collected over 100 blazers.
Wow.
It's amazing, Davey.
Wow, and I haven't even sent mine in yet. I've
From
got like
GF
25
So
for
they
them.
got another 300
Yeah.
coming in that case from GFOPs at this event. Massive for their clientele who are trying to move from the military into the civilian workplace. So a massive thank you to those of you. Many of you mailed in suits from around the country. We couldn't be prouder to help such an important cause.
Excellent.
Magic,
excellent
mate. Courage.
Stuff, Rog. Excellent stuff. It was so much fun. What a great evening. I've already started thinking, who's going to get the Golden Blazer next year, Rog?
I think it might be spray tan. Dan, the early money's on Hat Trick Rick, though, David.
Good choices, Rog. Good choices. Well, yeah, the committee will decide. Now Loretta Lynch, she's joining the conclave, will be Lynch, Bob Lee, Julie Foudy, and us.
Means the next Golden Blaze is going to be going to judge Bork.
Yeah, exactly. We will see, Rog. Okay, we've got a packed show. We're going to break down
Judge Reinhold.
a breathless back and forth 3-3 draw between Arsenal and West Ham at Upton Park. We recap Leicester's 2-0 victory at Sunderland that left Claudio Ranieri in tears, Rog. Tears of joy. And the Foxes just 9 points from clinching the Premier League title. And we pretend said title is still up for grabs while revelling in Spurs' 3-0 thrashing of not-so-fashionably late Manchester United. Plus, the Nigel de Jong tackle, Rog, that sidelined US men's national team midfielder Darlington Nagby, and Roger's road trip to watch the US women's national
What an
team.
afternoon.
Okay, Rog, to the football. Crack open the Guinness. Oh, pour it out, Rog. Cheers, Rog.
Cheers, David. To Arlo White, a triumphant week in our loving arms. I still smell a bit of his Prada aftershave.
I tell you, it's nice aftershave you had on. Okay, we're now between 31 and 38 of the way through the Premier League season, and the scriptwriters are in danger of delivering a flat third act filled with all of the season's now tired tropes. Leicester clean sheets, shots of Brad Guzan in anguish, and Arsenal stumbles. We need them back from the Masters, Rog, and working on the final 5 to 7 games of the Premier League season.
Oh, another weekend without Mum. Rebecca Lowe, week 2 of maternity leave.
Yeah.
Arlo White stepping in like a kindly uncle from abroad, coming to look after the children. At Moviegoer 74. Doesn't Arlo White in the studio feel like when they made James T. Kirk an admiral? Oh, Davo. Another cameo of wonder, though. Mm-hmm. Ian Darke on the early Saturday morning broadcast. It made old-timey nostalgia run through my veins. Sir Ian's surprise return made the great GFOP at that Josh Cale say, Ian Darke, best morning surprise aside from bacon.
I tell you, you can't beat bacon. It's always good, Rog, but Ian Darke is pretty good. His energy combined with Premier League action, very, very good. Okay, Rog, let's kick it off. The game of the weekend, West Ham 3, Arsenal 3, in a game rife with exotic footballing artistes. It's a Baman-bund, bovine-esque Englishman who steals the show. After the Irons fell behind to goals from Mesut Ozil and Alexis Sanchez, Andy Carroll netted a hat-trick in the span of 7 minutes and 14 seconds to put them ahead. But in the 70th minute, an adroit finish from centre-back Laurent Koscielny saw the final London derby at Upton Park, amazing, Rog, end in a draw. Arsenal stay third, but slip 6 points behind Spurs. They do have a game in hand.
Upton Park, West Ham's ground since 1904, Davey.
Yeah.
And seen once again to one of the most thrilling games for rubberneckers to savour this season. Stakes couldn't have really been higher going into it. Both teams knew a loss would end well for Arsenal, their feeble, still beating, but over so faintly title hopes, and for West Ham, their bold bid for a top 4 spot, which was then still on. The big team news, Slavan Bilic unleashed that veritable footballing hodor. Andy Carroll, first start since January.
Yeah.
And God, he quickly set into Arsenal's back four, walloping Koscielny and getting a yellow card in the 4th minute. Honestly, lucky to escape a second yellow on the spot for that cornrow man bun, David. Made him look as if his pre-game do had been sculpted by Snoop Pearson from The Wire. That haircut, David.
I'm all in on his haircut
You
now,
are?
Rog. I think he's making it work. He's committed so hard to it. He's gone so much further. I just love it.
I asked producer Lexi
Yeah.
to come up with a list of white men who do look good in braids.
Okay.
She came up with the following.
Okay.
Jared Leto, Harry Styles, Axl Rose, 2000s Timberlake, Lord of the Wings, chicken wings. Lord of the Chicken Wings, Orlando Bloom.
Yeah.
James Franco, Spring Breakers, James Franco.
Yeah.
And Kenny Powers. I'm not sure if we missed anyone. Please let us know, GFOPs. But I've got to say, Andy Carroll, and I know you're listening to this, you do not make that list. At O'Boyle D, Andy Carroll looks like a guy you'd buy questionable electronics from in the deserted parking lot of an abandoned warehouse.
Fantastic. Arsenal opened the scoring, playing football, coming off their 4-0 victory against Watford last week. You know, when Arsenal's title to lose, they're back again. And it's young Alex Iwobi, Rog, who seems to ignite Arsenal, his 3rd start, Rog.
Yeah, I mean, the game had fizzed from the outset. Both teams showed a ton of good intent, bad execution, some terrible, terrible refereeing, which you said made the game look even better.
Yeah.
Lanzini had the ball in the back of the net, incorrectly called offside. But then Arsenal took the game by the throat. West Ham coughed the ball up in transition, and Iwobi punished them. He tossed the ball nonchalantly to Ozil. Came with that ruthless finish. All hail Ozil, Davo.
Yeah.
West Ham's back three suddenly looking so vulnerable and unsettled. Their wing-backs pinned back. El Neni and Coquelin throttling the midfield. Iwobi, he's the kind of player you adore, right?
Yeah, he's fantastic. Well, he plays between the lines. That's what makes him so good. He sort of connects, and he connects with everyone. He has instant chemistry. Instant chemistry with everyone. He's like the last bachelor, Rog, Ben Higgins. Instant chemistry with everyone on that Arsenal
Tossing
squad.
out assists.
Not that I'm saying anything about the
like
Arsenal squad.
roses, as if they are roses. Because a couple of minutes later, I mean, it's rare to see a player so willing, so able to lob the ball into the most dangerous of areas. His next dish to Alexis, who nipped in to finish. Iwanchez.
Yeah.
Scored twice.
Sanchobi.
He's scored twice now, assisted another 2 goals in his first 3 Premier League starts for Arsenal. Theo Walcott, look and learn. A cynic would say.
Not you, Rog.
A cynic.
A cynic, not you.
An anonymous cynic.
An anonymous who wouldn't call in a rules infraction from home during the final round of the Masters.
He deserved it.
Yeah.
Hit water.
Yeah.
Pay your
That's
time.
the rule.
The rules, David.
Yeah.
Without rules, society falls apart.
Okay, son of Ivor.
Arsenal suddenly looking like world beaters.
Yeah.
You have to draw a coincidence, perhaps, to the fact that the pressure of possibly winning the league is now off their shoulders. That could have been a causal factor. But as we said on the show last night, just when Arsenal fans thought this might be the one rare weekend in which they can put their rusty nipple clamps back into the box unused, right before the half-time whistle, what happens, Dave?
Oh, Andy Carroll, Rog. He latches on.
Takes over the game.
He latches on to a fantastic ball in from Aaron Cresswell. Let me just make sure, a fantastic ball to Andy Carroll is any ball that goes anywhere near the box. When Arsenal are defending zonally, he gets a run from like 6-7 yards onto the ball. And Andy Carroll, with a run-up, he's a lolloping, large individual. But with a run-up, he can out-jump anyone, Rog. And he rises magisterially. Rog heads it in.
He leapt up like Kevin Federline. The first time I imagine Britney Spears looking at him from across the dance floor in the club, but wearing cleats. I mean, it was what Irving Welsh, GFOP Irving Welsh, would delicately term the goal of a shagger. Arsene Wenger's centre-backs, Koscielny and Gabriel, they just couldn't live with him.
Yeah.
Mertesacker, who's made to do 2 things in life: combat the aerial threat of enormous yet slow physical opponents and change light bulbs without the aid of a ladder. He was just left rooted to the bench as Carroll went and did it again. 2 minutes 40 seconds, 2 goals, and we're forced to consider once again that Andy Carroll might be one of the great English strikers of his generation. By English, I mean that he was born in England and he's in the mould of a traditional old English blood and thunder centre forward.
Yeah.
We always have this debate until he gets on a bar stool and injures himself drinking Jägermeister until 5 a.m. in a Newcastle nightclub and is out for the next 6 months, Dave. But wow, what a magic lumpen Englishman he is.
Yeah, I mean, that second goal was extraordinary. He was given so much space by the entire Arsenal squad. It's like he's got a force field around him. It's like he's wearing terrible aftershave, Rog. He gets time to bring the ball down, whiff it with his right foot, and then his powerful left trunk, the branch that he has on the end of his left thigh, Rog, just swings through the ball, whacks it. It's like Hot Shot Hamish from the old Scorcher, Rog. Almost breaks the back of the net there.
And by the time he broke into his second knee slide, I had to admit, Andy Carroll's haircut was growing on me. I mean, it's astonishing. 44th minute, West Ham 0, Arsenal 2. 52nd minute, West Ham 3, Arsenal 2. Because again, he ran on and dominated the wilting Arsenal backline like Shaquille O'Neal in his pomp. Wenger had no kind of hack-a-shack strategy at all to deal with him. Fastest hat-trick this season, 7 minutes, 14 seconds. All 3 goals from crosses, which only made you think about Arsene Wenger's decision on Mertesacker. And you could say on Peter Cech, who also didn't get the game. I mean, isn't just a superlative goalkeeper, but is also a field marshal in terms of organising his back four. Both of them were missing.
Yeah, look, West Ham play a version of football which is almost, it's nostalgic in some ways. It's like an old-fashioned form of English football. I mean, Payet notwithstanding, he's just sort of an exceptional player who can do everything and always turns up in key moments. But, you know, Mikel Antonio, Rog, a player who has laboured in the lower divisions of English football. The way he just took the ball and ran at Monreal for that third goal, beat him on the outside, put the ball up, notched it up onto the back post to Andy Carroll, who at this point was being defended by Bellerin, who was about 2.5 feet shorter than him. Just a beautiful goal. I love that kind of football, Roger.
Watching the entire spectacle, it was like witnessing the arc of Arsene Wenger's 19 seasons as Arsenal manager compressed into 52 minutes of football.
Yeah.
The saddest rock opera of all time that would be. The darkness, Davo. I want to say this. Whenever I do, people go a bit mental. I feel for Arsene Wenger. Not as a football fan, because I know that's partisan and divisive, but as something lesser, as a human being. Because his pursuit of the league title, David, it's eluded him at this point for so long. And he seems to be reaching like Captain Ahab levels at this point. He piled upon the Wales' white hump the sum of all the general rage and hate felt by his whole race, from Adam down, and then, as if his chest had been a mortar, he burst his hot heart shell upon it. I feel for that man.
They are such a confounding football team, Rog. I can only imagine what it must be like to support them. And the crisis, the existential crisis one must have trying to figure out whether you are the greatest team in football or the crappiest team in football.
Because Koscielny saved their blushes.
Yeah.
And I thought that, as he did so, Arsenal fans only seem to have two settings on their feelings. They're either, what a shambles, or title chase, back on. They just flicker. They careen backwards and forwards emotionally between those two. E. Pring tweeted us, we are world beaters and massive bottlers, a paradox even Camus couldn't dream of. Talk about your existentialism, Davo. Arsenal threw on Walcott and Giroud speed and a bit of power and finished the stronger as West Ham sought to pounce in transition through Payet and Carroll. What a fantastic farcical game of football the thing was. And I've got to say, Ian Dark on the call again, Davo. Like Bill Simmons, the lore of Gus Johnson. Yeah. Just made the whole thing seem all the more exciting.
No, without a doubt. What's that scene in the movie The Princess Bride, Rog, where they're constantly saying, inconceivable, inconceivable, inconceivable. I keep on thinking about that with Arsene Wenger. I can only imagine that he looks at the quality of his team and his players, and he then looks at the quality of the other team's players, Dimitri Payet notwithstanding, and just thinks, it's inconceivable that Arsene Wenger, that our Arsenal, that our collection of players could be taken apart by these lesser humans. But within that, I think is just the whole root of Arsenal's downfall, is that I don't think they respect, deep down, I just don't think that he and that squad can find it within their superior footballing id to respect anybody else other than themselves.
It's a bit like that Saturday Night Live sketch where the guy playing Dukakis and George Bush kept just looking at the camera. Can't believe I'm losing to this guy.
Yeah.
But they are. Arsenal's title dreams now done for the season. Supporters can now use all their energy just to call on Wenger and Kroenke to leave the club, which they're starting to do in ever larger numbers. West Ham's top four dreams, sadly now, also almost certainly done. They can focus on the FA Cup and the fact that they have a new, largely free stadium to move into next season, which is probably better than a top four trophy in the modern world of football. John Bennett at the BBC, Davo, tweeted out a photo of the Arsenal locker room in celebration after they'd beaten Leicester. Do you remember that result?
Yeah.
In the last minute, 2-1. And he tweeted, this photo was just 6 games ago. Arsenal beat Leicester to go 2 points behind. Tomorrow, Leicester will go 13 clear of Arsenal Football Club.
Game in hand, before we get the Ravens. Game in hand. Okay, Rog, Sunderland 0, Leicester 2. The Foxes are 3 wins from clinching the Premier League title. I'm going to interrupt that read and just say something. Remember when we did the World Cup edition of FIFA 14? Oh. We had to host a sort of a radio show projecting every single different outcome at the World Cup.
3 months before the actual World Cup, Dave and I were locked into a studio for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they just say things in our ear like, okay, the US, they're through to the semi-finals of the World Cup, react. Yeah. And we just come onto air and be like, oh my God, the dream is real.
Yeah.
And then they get in your ear and be like, okay, the US are out in the group stage. And we'd just be like, terrible news for the future generations, terrible news for democracy in this.
Costa Rica have won the World Cup.
Like, what? CONCACAF Thunder?
They've beaten Greece in the final.
They made you imagine scenarios that you just knew at the time could not come true.
So when I read the Foxes are 3 wins from clinching the Premier League title, thanks to a brace from the spikiest striker in all the land, Jamie Vardy, I read that as though we are hosting a fake radio show. Perhaps on
Maybe we
Copacabana
are,
Beach.
David.
Perhaps we are.
Well, can I ask you a question,
Yeah.
though? What is reality? And aren't we all just made of molecules?
This is the most existential pod
At the end,
ever.
At the end of the day, David, Leicester
Yeah.
win the title, and it's just turtles all the way down.
Okay, the Foxes are 3 wins from clinching the Premier League title, thanks to a brace from the spikiest striker in all the land, Jamie Vardy's second-half goals, his 20th and 21st of the season, Rog. We wouldn't have laughed. We wouldn't have let each other do this. Keep Leicester 7 clear of Spurs, atop of the table.
I've just realised this whole podcast, our whole relationship may just be one night of dreaming for me.
Pinch me.
I may wake up.
Pinch
None
me.
of this has ever happened. It's one
I
of the-
can't believe I
that's
thought the
true,
Men in
David,
Blazers would work.
let me tell
I
you-
can't believe
let me
that I
tell you,
actually
it's
convinced
the best-
myself in the dream.
If it's true,
Yeah.
it's the best dream I've ever had. I've been sleeping badly.
Oh, that's good, Rog.
Yeah. You want to talk about the football?
Yeah, let's talk about the
I'm
football
still
as though it
thinking
really
about Jamie
happened.
Vardy scoring and just
Yeah.
the world being on the back of hundreds of turtles. As I'm sure everyone is, as I say, this was a must-win
Yeah.
for both teams
Yeah.
for different reasons. Leicester to extend their lead over the chasing pack, and by the chasing pack we mean
Tottenham.
Sunderland slumped 4 points from safety in the relegation zone. Leicester essentially playing the equivalent of themselves this time last year. And the stakes made the game interesting, David, because the football really didn't, especially for the first half. It was like watching a car chase scene in which a souped-up Californian custom turbocharged Honda Civic street racer has to chase down a rusty Chevy Lumina. Lots of effort, very little execution from both sides.
Yeah, without a doubt. My first half hero, though, Rog, DeAndre Yedlin, as you've called him, the Lionel Messi of throw-ins,
Yeah, the Pele of throw-ins.
which I love.
I thought, by the way, he had a fantastic game.
Yeah.
A bit clumsy,
Yeah,
perhaps.
I
on
might have
Okazaki.
had a penalty called.
But I do, when I see him in the tunnel before games,
Yeah.
I think of this kid who grew up in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah.
Suddenly puke forth to
Yeah.
Sunderland, he finds
Yeah.
himself. And he's in this massive game for a club that he's trying to understand. Sunderland is a fantastic city, a very different city to most English ones that Americans will have visited. And I wonder what he makes of it all. And I have to say, this was one of his best games I've seen in a Sunderland jersey, especially the throw-ins, David.
Yeah, he's good
very
at throw-ins.
Good
Well,
at
I think,
throw-ins.
how on earth does he...
Communicate with Cattermole.
Well, that, but also, how does he, deconstruct and even comprehend Sam Allardyce? Who in his life would he have met that would have prepared him for Sam Allardyce? Perhaps watching Jabba the Hutt, if he'd ever watched the old Star Wars. I have no idea.
He's like the English John Candy.
He is. It's very planes, trains, and
If he's seen
automobiles.
planes changing automobiles,
Yeah,
he'll be
exactly.
okay. Leicester ran at Sunderland. Cattermole, Kabul spent much of the first half at full stretch. Jan Kirchhoff, I love
Yeah.
watching him. He trots around the field like one grown-up on a team full of kids. But Leicester kind of uncalibrated. Vardy hadn't scored since his penalty on Valentine's Day against Arsenal. Mahrez drifting in and out of the game, generally ineffective. And the Foxes played for long stretches as if goal machine twins Wes Morgan and Robert Huth
Yeah.
heading home off a set piece was plan A.
Yeah.
And there was no plan B. But then, Davo, in your favourite minute,
Oh, I love the 66th minute. Rog, Danny Drinkwater is going to be a vital player for England
what
this
a
summer
ball.
with Jordan Henderson's injury. He plays a fantastic ball to Jamie Vardy. Jamie Vardy, what speed, what a run, just making space there that you don't see many strikers making, and just an inevitable finish, Rog.
what a ball from Drinkwater. When asked to explain his telepathic relationship with Drinkwater after the game, Vardy explained it thusly. Drinky knows exactly where I'm going to be. Drinky. I don't know why I think that's Drinky and Vardy. I'd love to watch that. That'd be like the English Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah.
Drinky and Vardy. Vardy and Drinky on the lash.
Yeah, again.
I'd love to again. Like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, talking about Vardy and changing, Ranieri had gone as far as to curtail his shooting practice during the week so as to keep his legs fresh for game day. And this goal, Davo, it was like a fragment of Leicester City's early season playbook falling
Yeah.
through a hole in time and projecting forwards back to the future style.
And it's not just the quality of the pass, it's just the ability of Jamie Vardy to hold the defenders off him because he's got so much speed that he just moves. He's just so unexpected. Amazing to watch play football, Rog.
As soon as that goal went in, you knew the game was over. Leicester haven't conceded in 490 minutes. Schmeichel last picked the ball out of his net March 1st against West Brom. 5 straight shutouts.
Yeah, but they were helped a little by Sunderland, Rog, who had their chances. Fabio Borini, from 13 yards out, managed to hit his face, Rog.
Which he couldn't do if he tried.
Yeah, if he was aiming for it.
I've got to say, Kasri, Borini and Defoe, they played with all the understanding of players in an all-star game, minus any of the all-star qualities. Jack Rodwell, with one swing of his right foot, made the verb tawando redundant forever, blasting over when it was actually harder to miss than to score. It's incredibly match-fixing.
What happened to Rodwell?
Henceforth, Dave,
depressing.
It's a dark story, the moral of which is never leave Everton. Romelu Lukaku, I know you listen to this show. Even Bill Buckner would have looked at Rodwell and been like, oh my God, mate. And the game was put to sleep by another Vardy goal on the break.
Yeah, this one he made mainly himself, and Damari Gray put a pretty innocent ball through to him. Jamie Vardy then just, beat a succession of Sunderland players, Rog.
Van Aanholt tried to take him out, David, tried to obliterate him, but he got banged instead.
Manoni,
victim of Vardy's determination and strength.
Yeah, then Manoni.
Charged out of goal to take him out, but was left to just cuddle the air.
Yeah.
2-0, your final. Premier League writers must be running out of ideas because Leicester winning 2-0 instead of 1-0, that does not count as a plot twist.
It's not enough.
Not going to keep us hooked, David.
Yeah.
BBC had a great story last week that I loved. Pest controller in Grimsby caught a giant mega rat measuring 2.5 feet from head to tail.
Wow.
Jeff Sullivan was his name. Do you know him?
No.
He's the local rat catcher. He said, I've seen a lot of rats, and this one is the biggest one that I've ever seen. Maybe Jamie Vardy is just a really athletically gifted mega rat.
It's possible. It's possible.
He's
going to have to take a drugs test.
I got to say, after the final whistle, a little fanboy ran on the field to ask Vardy for a shirt and had to settle for a cuddle. He looked like a little rat boy venturing bravely out of his rat warren to see light for the first time and meet his feral creature hero up close and personal. I thought it was a beautiful moment, David. I mean, for Leicester, it wasn't an impressive performance tactically or physically, but emotionally, David, mentally, to keep grinding out results against resolute, if not impressive opponents, that is amazing.
Yeah, but also they're attritional, Rog. They wear you down, and Vardy's speed will wear you down. And late in the game, how many goals have they scored in the second half, Rog? I mean, they just wear you down.
Which is what shocks me about Leicester, David. They've used the least number of starters all season. The Premier League's meant to be a marathon. Yet at the end of games, when they're winning against desperate opponents, Leicester are the ones doing all the running. They never tire. I've never seen anything like it before.
But no European football. They haven't gone very far in any of the cup competitions, Rog, and it's just timed out perfectly for them.
They are now guaranteed a top 4 finish, and they only need 9 points from their last 5 games, 3 wins out of the last 5 to secure a first top flight title. Don't wake me up now if this is a dream, David, because one last beautiful moment. I cried watching Claudio Ranieri cry.
It was beautiful. It was a really lovely moment.
He walked across the field at the final whistle with tears of relief. What I imagine were relief, David. Tears that suggest that after a decade of being pilloried as a choker, called a tinkerman, reviled as a joke, that his name now will be known not just for winning, but the most magical season English football has ever seen. And you saw a man walking across a football field who knows that his name and his legacy will now live on forever.
It's a Hollywood motion picture, Rog. It's just a classic underdog story. Just wonderful, wonderful to see.
Oh, Leicester City plays Golden State Warriors, David. Who wins?
Wow. What sport?
Just lovability.
Oh, lovability. I think Leicester would be higher, Rog.
Talking about lovability.
Yeah.
Poor Sam Allardyce. Sunderland's game against Norwich next weekend looms large. Even larger than everything else about Sam Allardyce. It is a relegation must-win.
With that victory for Leicester, the pressure piled on Spurs, Rog, hosting Manchester United. And you know what? They beat them 3-0. Louis van Gaal likely wishing he left Matteo Darmian in the Seven Sisters Road traffic that caused United to turn up late to White Hart Lane. The substitute right-back was called into action in the 68th minute because of a Timothy Fosu-Mensah injury. He'd been fantastic in this game up until that point, Rog. Within 8 minutes of Darmian's introduction, Spurs pumped 3 goals past United. Spurs stay 7 points behind Leicester. United fall 4 points behind fourth-place City.
Oh, oddly muted affair, Davo. High stakes. Spurs had to win to keep pace with Leicester. It's been 14 years, 329 long days since a Tottenham side had beaten United at home. Yet despite the history, despite the stakes, just something flat about the game. Spurs possibly deflated by Leicester's win early that morning. And United, a team stuffed with high-priced, low-return, out-of-position stars, surrounded by gifted yet raw youth, and their collective comedy stylings reinforced by the delayed kick-off due to United's bus being, quote, held up in traffic. I mean, it just took the shine and the stuffing out of the first half.
Tottenham had some chances. I mean, Lamela, Rog had a gilt-edged chance to go and put Tottenham into the lead and missed it.
They did, but pundits have laughed. Van Gaal after the game, he claimed United were Spurs equals until they conceded. But in truth, United did open the stronger. They pressed high to dominate a slow-starting Spurs midfield, with Lingard and Martial making eager runs. It was Lamela starting to drop deep to cover the threat of Martial, and Spurs starting to raid with Eriksen that changed the game. He drifted in and out of the flanks to create space for others to threaten. And we can only wonder, Davo, what happened in the United locker room at half-time for them to wilt so?
Well, I think what happened in the Spurs locker room might be more important, Roger.
There's a famous story told by Roy Keane that we talked about before on the pod, the United legend, who said about Alex Ferguson and his brilliant ability to motivate his players. Keane wrote in his autobiography, "We were playing Tottenham at home. I thought, please don't go on about Tottenham. We all know that Tottenham are nice and tidy, but we'll effing do them." And Sir Alex just came in, looked at us and said,
"Lads, it's Tottenham."
And that was his pre-game talk in its entirety. The second half played out as if Pochettino just said calmly to his players, "Lads, it's just a Manchester United." Louis van Gaal's Manchester United at that, Davo.
I thought what Man United did really well in this first half is that high press, it took Rose and Walker out of the game. And that's where Tottenham have been so devastating this season. Their fullbacks get so far forward, and Dyer enables them to sort of carry just a 3-man defence. But they were pinned back all day. Fosu-Mensah was fantastic. He just broke up attack after attack after attack. He goes off, Darmian comes on, instantly game changes.
He's a man whose wispy, puby, avant-garde sideburns are like some kind of willful, posthumous tribute to the late Steve McLaren's Hair Island.
Yeah, Sideburn Islands, Rog.
A. Brandon Allhope said, Matteo Darmian's facial hair is an analogy for Man United's season. Patchy, disjointed, and lacking proper management.
Yeah.
Tottenham smelt blood. 3 goals, and the Italian was at fault for all 3.
Yeah, the first one, a melee in the centre of the field. Ball breaks to Eriksen down the left. Darmian just trots after him somewhat casually. Eriksen puts in a lovely, lovely ball. Dele Alli, what he does again and again and again, arrives late into the penalty area, finishes it off. On the last day of his 19 years, Rog.
English Mallory Pugh. 8 goals, 9 assists, age 19. Just 19. He actually turned 20 yesterday. But we love any excuse to bring back Paul Hardcastle. Google him. How would United respond, Davo? Well, the answer to that was they'd let in 2 more within the next 5 minutes, 45 seconds. How does this happen?
Matteo Darmian is how it happens, Rog. He fouls Harry Kane down the left. Lamela with the free kick sends in a beauty. I mean, the quality from Lamela, a player we used to deride, Rog, sends in an absolutely amazing free kick. And Alderweireld, probably the least talked about, most important player for Spurs, heads it in. Fantastic goal.
It's just a piece of product placement for Peaky Blinders Season 3, which starts in April, only on Netflix. And some of us are quite excited at that prospect. Clearly. He used his head about as well as Arthur Shelby. And the world's most athletic emo goth, Eric Lamela, finished off the scoring. If only he could win the Premier League on style points, I wrote, Spurs would be out of sight by now. But on the United issue of how they wilt, I was interested to hear Morgan Schneiderlin talk after the game. He said United are not mentally tough, sometimes not mentally ready. After the first goal, we lost a bit of shape, he said, which is a shocking thing to admit for any team. But for a United team, it is a borderline cry for help. They conjured one shot on goal the entire game. That, a piece of Martial magic. And the only fight that they showed in the second half was when Memphis squared up to Kyle Walker for an almost fight. If you thought Vince Neil and Nicolas Cage had the worst fight of the weekend, this was even worse. And I think about Memphis, he's played amazingly this season, but only within the 30 seconds of that Under Armour commercial.
That's brilliant, Rog.
Can I say about Van Gaal, Dave? Before the game, they're trying to narrative flip it again and say he's probably going to be back next season. How does that... Now that it's all like he's definitely got to go, players don't like him, playing us all out of position. Is it just that United crave stability? It's a very odd thing that they'd even start briefing the press again that he might be around next season.
This is just an entire organisation that just cannot seem to recover from the loss of Sir Alex and the fact that there isn't another immediate Sir Alex already fully formed, available and ready to go and take over this club.
I've been on the board of a couple of non-profits.
Yeah.
I've had executive directors that are clearly not suitable for the job.
Yeah.
But because you can't really be asked going through a job search again, you all kind of willfully try and believe that they're going to turn it around. It's going to be good. Get into it, United, because right now your defending is worse than man-spreading. I feel for Spurs fans. They're going to end the season higher than Arsenal, United, Chelsea, Manchester City. They will have scored more goals than anyone. They will have conceded less. Yet somehow, unless a miracle occurs, a Jordan Spieth kind of claps, Davo, they will not win the league, which is a new definition of Spursiness.
We'll talk about that a little later in the podcast, Rog. Okay, Manchester City. To the extent that the rest of the football actually matters, Rog, Manchester City 2, West Bromwich Albion 1. After falling behind to a Stéphane Sessegnon thumper in the 6th minute, City rallied behind a Sergio Aguero penalty and a Samir Nasri goal to win back-to-back Premier League games for the first time since October. They remain in 4th place, Rog.
Difficult fixture in driving sleet against a robust opponent sandwiched in between the delicately poised petrodollar-fueled Champions League slugfest against PSG. And the fact that City were able to win and not use up too much energy in doing so, while holding off determined, stubborn old West Brom, speaks really well of them. Started badly, City caught in transition, Sessegnon found room to control a difficult ball and lashed it beyond cartoon face of astonishment's Joe Hart, who was no doubt still basking in the glory of his tunnel oratory that he delivered. I've done so well there, lads. Sessegnon taketh away and Sessegnon giveth. He brought down Kolarov with a lunging tackle and Kun Aguero tucked away the penalty. Then De Bruyne came on, changed the game, gave City an extra edge as he began to run through the resolute West Brom backline, caused a scramble. And who scored the winner?
Samir Nasri. Rog, remember him?
I do. That haircut, though. In the week of daft haircuts, and there were many in the Premier League, my game notes just say, after a difficult week, Abby Wambach scores a first ever Premier League goal.
Yeah.
Crucial win in the race for 4th. City extend their buffer ahead of 5th place United. But my favourite piece of news out of Manchester this week, Davo, was this in the Manchester Evening News.
Oh, I love this, Rog. A porn survey reveals Mancunians search for Liverpool-related Scouse terms far more than other parts of the UK. Porn-watching Mancunians are more fond of their Merseyside rivals than they care to admit. Exclusive new data released by Pornhub has revealed that people from Manchester search for Liverpudlian terms far more than other parts of the UK. It makes you think, what are these Liverpudlian terms, Rog? Well, here they are. The adult entertainment website published the information as part of its review into the world's porn habits. It shows that users in Manchester search for Liverpool girls 120% more on average than the rest of the UK. Other keywords that proved popular among the Mancunians were scally.
Scally is like a local Liverpool urchin.
Scouse and Liverpool. Liverpool's top search was Liverpool. That's a form of Liverpudlian onanism.
Oh, self-love is the best kind of love, David.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating.
Of all the things that I wouldn't put up into a Pornhub search bar, not that I'm searching on Pornhub, Liverpool. By the way, Scally would be up there as well. But Liverpool, that's the least erotic thing I could think of.
Yeah, I'm getting quite turned on every time you say it. We better talk about the football team. That'll calm me down.
Okay, Liverpool 4, Rog, Stoke 1. Hugs for all after Jurgen Klopp's side comfortably dismissed the Potters from Anfield. Goals from Alberto Moreno, Daniel Sturridge and 2 from Origi see Liverpool leapfrog Stoke in the table. They moved into 8th and are creeping up on those Europa League spots, Rog.
Liverpool flying high after their fantastic midweek performance in Dortmund. Here they were able to rest key talent with an eye to the home Europa League clash on Thursday in the Kloppengo, a match which gave Jurgen Klopp the opportunity to drop one of, I think, his finest quotes all season. When they asked him if he'll celebrate when Liverpool score, he said, "I will not take some pills to stop me from celebrating a goal." That from a man who celebrates goals as if he just necked down a whole bunch of bloody pills. Stoke are confounding, David.
Yeah.
They're like Liverpool, but even more so. Lethal one week and toxic the next. Here, Liverpool able to give young Shea Ojo, and slightly easier to say Kevin Stewart, full league debuts. They even partnered Toure alongside Martin Skrtel at the back, which is football's equivalent of trolling your opponents, yet they still won with ease. The big bright point, the form of 20-year-old Belgian striker Divock Origi, who arrived somewhat as a joke after a flat last season in France. But whatever he had that he'd lost, he since refound 2 goals in this game. Klopp said after the final whistle that during Origi's last injury, they'd worked hard on his body strength. He said, Origi now has to wear a different size shirt. You can see he's got confidence too. His second goal was only possible with confidence. But I thought Mark Hughes was fascinating post-game, David. He said it's still very early in Jurgen's tenure. There's a really positive feeling around the club, and Jurgen has instilled that with his personality. He's not the kind of guy that says glowing, warm things unless they really exist, David.
No.
So a great positive for Liverpool.
Very, very true. I think it's tough. Teams like Stoke, so little to play for at this time of the season. Yes, they might be able to get into the Europa League, but, long term, is that the next stepping stone for them, or is that going to go and hurt them? Rog, you never know. Talking of little to play for, Swansea 1, Chelsea 0. Chelsea lose their first Premier League game since Gus Hiddink was appointed manager in December. Gylfi Sigurdsson continued his second half of the season resurgence in the 25th minute, slotting a failed Matt Miazga clearance past Asmir Begovic, who started in goal in place of Thibaut Courtois.
Yeah, little he could do on the goal in the 25th minute by the stealthily impressive Gylfi Sigurdsson. Only Harry Kane and Sergio Aguero have scored more goals this year, 2016, than Gylfi's 9. And as it went in, I said to myself, the Matt Miazga era at Chelsea comes to an end. He was subbed at half-time.
Yeah, he didn't have a great half. He had a yellow card, and I think one of the reasons he was subbed because of the yellow card. But you're not quite sure how he, or by the way, many of his teammates are going to fit in to Antonio Conte's plans next season.
Well, I'll just say, Matt, if you're listening, they'll never be able to take that heroic shutout against Aston Villa away from you.
Yeah.
At Rhino Helton tried to look on the bright side and tweeted, Miazga's first Premier League assist.
No, it's right. It's an own assist.
It's funny what you say about Conte, Dave. Because last week he dropped in and met with the players at the training ground just to deliver the message, I am watching. Oscar told the press every game's like an audition to impress the new manager. Message clearly delivered, right, Dave?
Hardly. I mean, you look at this team without Willian, who was, not even in the matchday squad, Rog, along with several other. I mean, Chelsea were missing so many players. Just nobody stepped up. Nobody stepped up on that squad.
It's called Evertoning. Welcome, friend.
Very bizarre.
Safety secured for Swansea. Turbulent season for this usually buoyant club continues. Our friend Mark Stein of ESPN reported that 2 Americans, Steve Kaplan, vice chairman of the NBA's Memphis Grizzlies, and Jason Levine, DC United's managing general partner, are finalising an agreement to purchase a controlling interest in the club for a rumoured $200 million.
Wow, exciting.
And buzz circulates they're trying to bring back Brendan Rodgers.
Wow.
Narrative twist, which to me,
that'd be amazing.
It's worth $200 million alone.
It is, you're right.
And a lot more in Brendan Rodgers' estimation. Say Swansea have been long heralded as a perfectly run club, 21% of their ownership in fans' hands in a supporters' trust. This news, if true, suggests that the principal owner, Hugh Jenkins, has been totally spooked out by his team's flirtation with relegation this season.
Yeah, frustrating though, I can imagine, for Swansea fans. They played very well in this game, really put in a performance against a not very good Chelsea squad, we should say. But they did play very, very well. They put Chelsea on the back foot. The one Chelsea player who does actually get some credit, Asmir Begovic. This could have been 3-4-0. Watford 1, Everton 1, Rog, just 1 minute after taking the lead behind James McCarthy in Judge Ivor Bennett time. The Toffees concede to Greece international and Billy Zane's favourite Premier League player, Jose Holebas.
Dave, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
This is a battle to show who gives less of a crap between two teams in the FA Cup semi-final.
Yeah.
The only real news was that Everton fans unfurled banners, which included Martinez out
Yeah.
and Baines is one of us, after defender Leighton Baines had to apologise for claiming that the players, quote, lack chemistry. It was dark, David. I mean, I don't know what to say about it. The Everton are 14th, 39 points. It's shocking. Yet inertia has kicked in. I feel nothing. No emotion, other than a hatred of the fact that I feel no emotion at this stage in the season. Can I say what did make me feel feelings, David? Because I'm numb to Everton losing.
To feel real feelings?
Yeah.
Yeah, say.
Merle Haggard dying.
Oh. Your favourite Merle?
Yeah, this is the point. Yeah, I mean, an amazing American life, petty criminal turned music star. New York Times captured his essence, beautifully writing that his music was caked with the dust of hard-won experiences. He wrote 10,000 ballads in his lifetime, which makes him the Wilt Chamberlain of songwriting. I also loved that he planned the entire soundtrack of his funeral, which is what I've done.
Oh, I know.
His began with a studio recording of Lefty Frizzell's I Love You 1,000 Ways, and had a whole lot more Chris Christopherson than mine will. But here's what I am sad about, what you did, David. How low is the world on Merles now?
Very low, very low.
A great American name.
Yeah.
Do we have Merles in England?
I don't think we've got Merles. There are also American Merrills. I think Merrill is a great name for a man.
You do?
Yeah.
I like Merle Oberon, the actress.
Yeah.
Fortunately dead in 1979. Merle Travis, singer, dead, 1983. All of you are screaming out at home, Merle Tuve, the scientist, also dead, 1982. I'll just say, put it out there. If the world needs anything right now in this time of madness,
It's another Merle.
we need not just one, Davey,
We need
more Merles.
a world of Merles. Okay, Southampton 3, Newcastle 1. Goals from Shane Long, Graziano Pella and Victor Wanyama see the Saints pass the Toon on the south coast. Southampton stay 7th and move within 2 points of West Ham. Yeah, as for Rafa Benitez, it's looking ever more likely he'll go from the Bernabeu to an away trip to Brentford in less than a year.
I'm not sure he's going to
It's
stick
quite a nice
around.
little ground, Brentford, though.
Oh, he looks more and more like Spanish Remy Gard, Rafa Benitez. A man who took the wheel of a ship that's taken on so much water it's about to list and go under without leaving so much as a ripple. What a performance. 4 minutes in, Shane Bloody Long, beat 4 defenders, one of whom, Stephen Taylor, decided not to defend, but to give Long a convoy guard of honour on his trot to goal. I feel for the North East if Newcastle and Sunderland are relegated. The area is, how would you describe it? It's kind of akin to the American Rust Belt economically.
Yeah, no, it certainly struggles up there in the northeast.
And them dropping out of the Premier League will only make matters worse. We will discuss what now for Newcastle on the dark day. The word out of the club is none of the players have relegation clauses, which mean they'll still be paid as Premier League players,
Wow.
even if the club go down. And so the club's going to have to do something drastic with their wage bill, which is at $100 million a year, dwarfing the $30 million championship average. Fascinating Southampton story this morning I want to tell you about quickly, David. Ronald Koeman says obsession with headphones and smartphones is affecting players' ability to communicate properly.
Huh. With
So-
each other.
Yeah, it's fascinating. When I met him, he talked a lot how the players play so much FIFA, they don't talk anymore in the clubhouse. And he said today, when I was playing, we played cards on the coach when we went to matches. We talked, we communicated. Now everyone just puts his headphones on, is in his own world. There's no communication. That's maybe one of the reasons they don't talk anymore on the pitch. And so to deal with this, David, they have sessions now, Southampton, in training, in communication, in talking.
That's genius. I love that.
I find that darker than hell. Steve Jobs killed football, David.
Need to do this at Embassy Road, Rog. By the way, Newcastle. I feel for Newcastle fans. That's a team capable of playing really, really good football. I still can't quite comprehend why they're so far down the table. You look at that Andros Townsend goal, Rog.
It's because the players are just talking in emojis.
Yeah, very true. Okay, Crystal Palace. What kind of emojis are they using? That little turdy one, I'm sure. Crystal Palace 1, Norwich 0. Palace win their first game since December 19th. The difference, a 68th minute Jason Punchin goal. Palace moved 10 points clear of the drop zone. Norwich only 4 clear.
Oh, Punchin, beautiful man. Inconsistent season, charged to the edge of the area, wrapped his foot around the ball, curled it emphatically into the top corner. His first goal in 26 games. He is a local boy who used to have a season ticket at Crystal Palace. He said after the game, "I was very emotional when I scored. I had to close my eyes." Bless him. Winless in 14 matches, this was Palace's first 3 points since December 19th. Their tingling relegation fears have been quashed, even though the fretting around the causal factors will long linger.
Villa 1, Bournemouth 2, the final game. Villa all but officially down after falling to the Cherries. A clever flick from Stephen Cook and a Joshua King goal put Eddie Howe's men up 2-0 before Jordan Ayew pulled one back in the 85th minute. The win moves Bournemouth up to 11th and sees them officially past the 40-point mark.
Oh, Villa are bad. They're Sam Hinkie bad. Amazing to think. They won the first game of the season against Bournemouth 1-0. They were third.
I remember the Rudy Gusted header.
They've only won twice since. And Bournemouth fans spent the whole game singing, "We're staying up," to which Villa's chanted in return, "We're going down." And the only thing left to admire about Villa to me is Brad Guzan's ability to look like he cares so deeply every time he concedes a goal, which he does all the bloody time. He does that little head shake, part of anger, part despondency. The rest of his team clearly can't give a crap anymore. And next week, a Norwich win or draw against Sunderland, or their own failure to beat United, will have the same dark, dank effect on a once proud club.
Okay, in MLS, the Philadelphia Union handed Orlando City their first loss of the season Friday, 2-1 at Talon Energy Stadium. DC United earned their first win of the season, defeating Vancouver 4-0 at RFK. But the big talking point of the weekend came Sunday when a Nigel de Jong tackle, Rog, left Darlington Nagbe sprawled out on the StubHub Centre turf during the Galaxy's 1-1 draw with the Timbers.
De Jong does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
No surprise what he does. It's what he always does, Davey. Just ask Xavi Alonso. Just ask Stu Holden.
Yeah.
I mean, news came out today that Nagbe, thankfully, just has an ankle sprain. Nothing broken, as was first feared when he was wheelchaired off the pitch. Smoke signals out of MLS suggest De Jong will be suspended, although we don't know for how many games. I'll say this about De Jong. I think his reputation precedes him. It was a nasty challenge on a much-loved player, definite red, which it wasn't given at the time. But if his name was Joe Bloggs and he made the same tackle, or let's say James McCarthy of Everton on Dimitri Payet of West Ham earlier in the season, this would be a B-level story on the weekend, and we'd all be talking instead about Tranquillo Bonnetta's late free kick that enabled Philadelphia to top Orlando.
Yeah, with that five-man sub-wall behind the wall, making the goalkeeper blind, but they seem to be offside to me. Yeah, Roger, I have a struggle. I struggle a bit with this tackle because the reality is, you're right. Had this been another player, that was not. If you look at the history of Nigel de Jong tackles, that was not a particularly severe Nigel de Jong tackle.
It wouldn't make the career DVD if you did the top 50.
No, it was not and it was one of those tricky things. You know, Nagbe lost control a little bit of the ball. He pushed a little bit further away than he wanted to, and then went with the outside of his left foot. De Jong came in trying to put his studs on top of the ball, I think, and then just ended up going over the top. The problem is, the actus reus wasn't so bad. You look for the mens rea, and the mens rea, you can only assume they look at it and they think, and certainly the MLS disciplinary panel are going to look at it and say, oh, this is Nigel de Jong, and I think he's going to go down. I think he's going to go down for a while. But this is not a game played in slow motion, Rog. This is a game played in real time. Very tough for... I watched it in real time a few times. Only when I watched it in slow motion did I think, oh, that wasn't good. Okay, the US women's national team, the World Cup champions, Rog, they continue their preparation for Rio. They beat Colombia by a combined 10-0 in two friendlies this past week. The first in East Hartford, the second in Philadelphia. Rog, you actually got to attend it.
Oh, I had a fantastic time. In Chester, Pennsylvania. On Sunday, I took my daughter Zion to her first US women's national team game, watching with a sold-out crowd as the US comprehensively dismantled Colombia. I found it very moving as both a football fan and as a father. I was blown away by so many things. I mean, the technical ability of this squad. Jonathan Tannenwald wrote a great piece in the Philly Inquirer asking whether this is the most talented US squad ever. This one, not the 2015 squad, but this squad headed off to the Olympics. And with the wondrous Becky Sauerbrunn and Julie Johnston as the anchor, passing movement of this team, I believe in his theory. I mean, Megan Klingenberg and Mallory Pugh in this game really caught my eye in this tiny gem of a stadium in the middle of nowhere, filled with the biggest hot dogs that I've ever seen.
Oh, you love a big hot dog.
We'll chat about the big hot dog controversy in a minute.
Oh.
But the biggest takeaway for me, the extent to which these athletes have a pop star relationship with their fan base. I just did an interview with Adweek about endorsement possibilities for these women. And what I saw was that the audience, they don't just like the players, they love them. They revere them. And the them is a squad built of so many strong, wonderful, distinct personalities. I've rarely witnessed such a deep emotional connect between fans and players in football. I think it's because they offer young girls the chance to become world beaters as a fierce, proud, diverse, athletic American unit, which is deeply aspirational. I do want to talk about the hot dogs.
Yeah. So you tweeted out a picture, I believe, of a hot dog with ketchup, Rog.
Yeah. I was mostly because I was blown away by the size of these hot dogs.
Yeah.
If you've not seen the photo, it's on Twitter.
Oh, I wish I had a hot dog now.
I posted a photo and then got barraged over Twitter. Barraged by angry Americans who I think were fueled by that most American of characters, Dirty Harry, and his quote, nobody puts ketchup on a hot dog. And I want to make it clear, this was my daughter's hot dog.
Yeah, she's not into mustard yet at the age of 6.
She's... If I'm going to drive all the way to Philly, there will be cheesesteaks.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like you people don't know me at all.
On to our Ravens. Our first Raven from Colleen Darcy, San Diego, California. I'm a new Premier League fan and feel... Welcome, Colleen. Welcome, friend. And feel like I have started following the Premier League at the best time, watching Leicester City's triumphant season. Strong enough to conquer even the curse of Rog. However, from a competitive perspective, do you believe Leicester's triumph speaks highly of the Premier League from a footballing quality perspective? As United, Arsenal, Chelsea and City have all had poor seasons, do you think the Premier League itself is thrilled or embarrassed by Leicester's triumph? Rog, I'm so delighted to get a chance to discuss this because you and I have been on the edge of discussing this so many times and we've had to save it for the pod. Let's have that discussion now. Is what has happened with Leicester this season good for the Premier League? Is it bad for the Premier League?
If you work at the Premier League, are you clapping Leicester over the finish line? Are you like, wow? From a marketing global perspective, this is a slight problem. I think I want to make it clear from a fan perspective, from a narrative perspective, it's the best thing ever to witness. Human, sporting, athletic miracle. But for me, from a brand perspective, if I was inside the league, I imagine inside the league, there's many who wish Leicester could have come close, but no cigar. I mean, it's one thing for English Premier Leagues to crap out in the Champions League, because you can explain that away and say, you know, the teams are exhausted, only in the Premier League do they have real competition, in the Bundesliga, Bayern can walk through it, PSG waltz through the French League, Barca and Real Madrid are not really challenged week to week. But it's completely another to have a rank outsider just batter your prestige brands, your Manchester Uniteds, your Manchester Cities, your Chelseas, your Arsenals. It just undermines the case that the Premier League is elite football. It's elite drama, it's unbeatable narrative, but from a competition perspective, it kind of undermines a league's pretensions to top quality.
Yeah, look, I think there's definitely a point there. And I think there are a lot of Premier League fans who actually have liked the idea of, okay, if we're not going to win, then Leicester win, that's great. And the number of Premier League stars of the big teams who are sort of rooting for Leicester because they don't want...
It's amazing.
They don't want to see Tottenham win. They'd much rather see a team that they don't actually view as being a competitor go and win it. But I think for a lot of fans, when they start thinking about it, I think they're going to struggle with this a bit. If you're the fan of another mid-level or smaller team, you're starting to look at your ownership. You're starting to look at your management, perhaps as an Everton fan, Rog, and say, okay, why Leicester? Why not us? Why can't we be in the position to go and do that? And for years, the argument has been, you know what, the big clubs, only the big clubs can go and do it. That argument has pretty much gone forever right now.
Not just for the little clubs, but for Arsenal Football Club.
Yeah, it's gone forever. And then for the big teams, for whom Champions League qualification, almost automatic Champions League qualification, or being there or thereabouts qualification, it has just gone. It is gone. It just is going to be very, very tough to compete. It's going to be very tough to buy your way out of trouble when the fact is that every team's going to have money. Every team's going to be looking for value. And the difference between a $50 million player and a $5 million player, it's not $45 million worth. There isn't the same ratio of 50 to 5 in terms of their difference in quality. It's pretty close. And teamwork, communication, chemistry, and working with the right manager at the right time, at the right point in his career, that seems to make a lot more difference. And a little bit of good fortune, Rog.
But from a league perspective,
yeah,
how will it be viewed?
I think ultimately it's good. And Leicester have very, very quickly sold a lot of shirts as many shirts as they could sell, Rog, because they don't make enough all around the world. And I think we've established another brand. And I think the Premier League perhaps needed another brand, and I think they got it.
I think for the big clubs, it's fascinating. It does point to a future in which very rich teams can compete against very, very rich teams. Because ultimately, Premier League, there's so much money now.
That's so true.
Money's going to become less of a factor because everyone is swilling around in it.
Yeah.
And on your fan point, David, there was a great piece by Richard Williams, I think it was, in The Guardian, where he talked about how Leicester City's exploits have actually broken fans' adherence to modern loyalty. He wrote about how so many of the fans of the teams Leicester are beating are actually cheering Leicester on, as you said, rather than their own teams or in addition to their own teams. And I agree with you. I realised about Leicester, what they've done this season, whether they flicker out next season or not, but fans of teams like Southampton, West Brom, West Ham, Everton, who've given up the ghost of ever winning the title. I mean, I used to speak to Tim Howard and I used to say, you're a competitive man. How does it feel to start a tournament, the Premier League, that you know you have no chance of winning? And he talked candidly about predetermined economics in the league and how painful that was as an athlete. Next season, every team will set out believing they can win it. It's the belief of fools born of one miracle season. But next campaign, the hopes are going to be higher for every fan, the disappointment greater, because we now know it's possible for any team to win it all. Thank you, Leicester.
Wow.
Not.
Wow. Okay, Rog, the winner of the coveted Guinness Men in Blazers Poet, Philosopher, Sucker, Scribe, Raven of the Week is Cliff Ruthstrom. Rog, while listening to the latest pod, happy belated birthday, Davo. Thank you. I randomly thought to myself the most American question of all questions. I wonder who Davo's dream foursome would be.
On the golf course.
Yeah, on a golf course, I've always told myself. Cliff says, Dan Patrick, an avid golfer and idol of mine, would always be on that list. These days, I would love to add Davo and David Faherty to top of that group. Wow, that would be... No, I wouldn't get a word in edgewise, I can tell you that. I feel a little bad to leave out Rog, even though I know he'd rather be deep into a great book. But to add Rog into that group, not as a fifth, not as a caddy, but as our Guinness pourer, that would have to be the cherry on top. LTD from Cliff.
Tell us, David.
Great question. Well, foursome, I must say, I think he means a four ball. I do like foursomes, Roger. I do like alternate shot foursomes. It's one of the forgotten formats of golf. Right, JW? It's a good game, foursomes. So first of all, I have to say, the first thought that went into my head was my grandfather, William Peterson James, who I never met him, died long before I was born, was an avid golfer, like the old tweed suit, +4s, scratch golfer. Grew up playing with his little wooden shafted clubs, would have loved to have played with my grandfather, Rog. And to play a foursome with my grandfather, my daughter, JJ, talked earlier about the pleasure of taking your daughter, Zion, to go and see the US Women's National Team. I'm dealing with a daughter, 11-year-old, who has become hooked on golf, watching the final round of the Dinosaur, watching the final round of the Masters, trying to play and practice at every opportunity. It's a lovely thing to go and be able to spend all of that time playing golf with your daughter, Rog. And then I'd like to play, also adding to that foursome, the future golfer in my son George. That would be a great Davis, James family thing if all the four of us could play. Then I thought, okay, that's not what he's asking. Instead, okay, Churchill, got to be on every list. Churchill, by all accounts, though, not a very good golfer, Rog. There are some pictures of him playing at the Cannes Golf Club in the south of France, but not a very good golfer, Winston Churchill. You can imagine he probably didn't practice a lot, I'm thinking. So in the end, I came up with this. This was my dream four ball. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, very keen golfer. In fact, so keen that later in life, he became captain of his local golf club, and he became obsessed with the afterlife. When his son went off to World War I, Rog, he made him promise that if he died, he'd meet him on the fourth green at his golf club. And his son was killed in that war, and the older Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was always spotted on the fourth green, just waiting to go and see his son. Oh, breaks my heart. Amelia Earhart, who lived next door to Lakeside Golf Club in Toluca Lake, one of the it used to be the real Hollywood golf club, apparently a fantastic golfer, and P.G. Woodhouse, one of my favourite writers, wrote The Clicking of Cuthbert, brilliant golf writer, played in Long Island, played down in South Carolina, in Aiken, South Carolina, and a great friend of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, because you need people who can communicate with each other. So I figure me and Amelia Earhart would take on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and P.G. Woodhouse. That's a decent four ball. Or we can play alternate shot foursomes.
It's decent.
Yeah, who have you got?
Start off with Lee Trevino.
Yeah.
Legendary Texan golfer.
Yeah.
Who I once saw warm up for the British Open by having his caddy stand about 10 yards in front of him and catch his drives with a baseball mitt. Most American thing I've ever seen to this day.
Amazing.
Second,
Yeah.
Mark Rylance.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
Just saw him in Nice Fish in Brooklyn. I hate the theatre and I savoured every single second. I just love to talk to him about his ability to physically transform himself into his characters. And the fourth,
Yeah.
either Laura Linney,
Yeah.
who I so enjoyed as our guest this season on Men in Blazers, or like you, bringing your grandfather back from the dead.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd bring someone back from the dead, David.
Who, Rog?
Adolf Hitler. So I could kill him with my own hands.
Oh,
probably actually
with your
use
own
a
drive.
3-wood. No, I'd use a 3-wood.
And his deformed
Love
micro
that.
penis, Rog.
Love that.
His deformed micro penis. Okay, wonderful, Rog. That's great. That's a fun game. Could do that for hours. Okay, your weekend looks like this, courtesy of Mini USA. Norwich versus Sunderland, 7:45 a.m. Saturday on NBC SN. Big game, that, Rog. Huge game. Chelsea versus Manchester City.
Slightly less big.
Well, it's like watching CNBC at 12. Not that CNBC isn't a fantastic network.
C-SPAN,
At
mate.
12:30 p.m. Saturday on Network NBC. What a disappointment. Leicester versus West Ham at 8:30 a.m. Sunday on NBCSN. Another cracking game, Rog. And in MLS, Orlando versus New England, 3:30 Eastern Time Sunday on ESPN. And FC Dallas versus Sporting Kansas City at 7 p.m. Eastern Time Sunday on Fox Sports 1. There are many ways to connect to us. One is through our Amazon Emporium, which helps keep the show going. Anytime you go on Amazon for items big or small, just click off the Emporium page and Men in Blazers gets a tiny percentage that allows us to cover the cost of creating the show. What are you putting in the Emporium this week, Rog?
The 3-wood that I used to kill Adolf Hitler.
That's very good.
No,
What is it? The X-Hot Callaway Driver.
A book.
Yeah.
The Throwback Special by Chris Bachelder. A novel about 22 men, which you should read, Davey.
Yeah.
They get together every fall for one weekend and they reenact the epoch-defining 1985 play in which Lawrence Taylor crushed Joe Theismann's leg and ended his career live on Monday Night Football.
Wow.
The book is a tender, beautiful examination, exquisitely observed, of middle-aged American masculinity, aging, loneliness, fear, and the deep desire to communicate that so many of us have and that so many of us find so hard. It is dark, it is poetic, it's incredibly human. I'm annoyed I'm not reading it right now. I've got 20 pages left. But at the same time, it's a kind of book that I never want to end.
I'd love to read that book. Sounds fascinating. I'm going to put in, Rog, the Golf Gifts and Gallery 23-inch collapsible chipping net. Golf season just about to get underway in the northeast. Still quite cold outside. But I've been warming up early in the season in my back garden with this 23-inch collapsible chipping net. It's like a target, Rog. It has like a bullseye, then a sort of an outer ring, sort of inner ring, and then an outer ring net. Set it up anywhere between 10 yards and 50 yards. Just practice my different wedges, practice my pitch, practice my chip, different kinds of ball flights. Love playing with that, Rog. It'll improve your chipping game.
Get Lee Trevino's caddy, mate. His baseball mate out there.
Yeah, he'd be dead like Adolf Hitler, Rog.
Someone like you
With
should
my
have people
driving.
for that.
With my
you should have
driving.
people for that.
Good, Rog. You can now watch entire episodes of our crap TV show on NBC Sports Live Extra, Apple TV and Roku. It's also up on our website, meninblazers.com, also on meninblazers.com, a place to sign up for our newsletter, The Raven, which we produce with our partner Guinness. We've got a Spotify account, men_in_blazers, meninblazers.wikispaces.com. It's a wonder of the modern world. You can follow us on Twitter, @meninblazers, @Embassy Davies, @Rog Bennett. You can follow us on Instagram, @meninblazers, @Embassy_Davies. We've also got a Facebook. We've got a subreddit, meninblazersreddit.com, maintained by GFOPs Akshay, Calvin, and Alex. You can always send your ravens to the crap part of Soho. You can always email us at meninblazers@gmail.com.
That might be your personal best. You raced through that.
I know, I did it in good time.
I just want to say we also have a couple of pod specials going up this week.
Special.
We're going to pop up the entire Golden Blazer
Good.
show this week, and then the week after next, an extended version of our audience with the 83rd Attorney General of the United States, Ms.
Also,
Loretta Lynch.
If anybody took video of me dancing to Metallica, please send it in to meninblazers@gmail.com.
If you send it to me first, I'll pay you $15,000. David's just going to delete it.
Vendor Punk Rog.
War pig.
Who wants to sex Matumbo?
LT.